weird habits or rituals that people have for the dead?
I think in Africa, they, ¿cómo se dice baúl? Corpse.
Casket. Casket.
They take it and they put it on their shoulders or their arms and they start dancing. Why is that? Taking
It's like a tradition. It's their tradition. It's part of their culture, I think.
What would be the meaning of that? Why would they do that?
Because they think they have to say goodbye to that person in a very, they think that they think that that person goes to a better place. So they are like celebrating that part of that thing. They don't want to say goodbye to that person in a sad way.
Okay. Can you think of any other ritual that people do when people are dying, whether they are dying or whether they're at the funeral? Rituals that you've heard that people do, and try to figure out what it means.
In Korean, they put like a table of food of the person that's favorite food, and they put it there because they think that giving that to them, they will come and eat what they have served in the table and feel more relief and comfortable.
Okay, so after a lot of times after the funeral service, there's like this huge like banquet and everybody comes together and eats. Why do you think that they do that? What does that mean? Like after they leave the church, they go to somebody's house and they eat. Why? So you people have honestly never been to a funeral? No. Oh my goodness. So when it comes to death, humans have a lot of different rituals and a lot of different beliefs. Some of the beliefs make sense, some of them don't. And I don't think that anybody has to impose their personal beliefs about death on other people. Just kind of like listen to what everybody has to say and just, okay, if that's what you want to believe, that's fine. But in this particular story, the person who died is the main protagonist's mother. And she died while she was in a home for old people. So let's talk a little bit about that. There are a lot of cultures in which it's just completely acceptable that after your parents reach a certain age, you send them to live in this home with other old people. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that's better, or it's better to keep your parents after they're very old at home? What's your opinion?
I think they feel very lonely when someone sends him to those places. And I think that, I don't know, it isn't like the right thing to do, because I mean your parents did everything they could for you, and for you just to send them to
me atacó una cucaracha en la clase y se desapareció. ¿Ah? Me recorrió.
That was cute.
Como que no se quita. Mami.
Okay, Moises, thank you. Go
ahead.
ahead.
So I think like yeah.
So you
that
don't
thing.
The cucaracha took your inspiration. So you don't think that it's okay to send your parents to one of these places to live? But you see, what happens a lot of times is that when you keep them at home, people usually, let's say your parents are old, like 80 something years old. What really happens is that they end up being the babysitters, and they end up working and taking care of all the babies and stuff like that. And then people are looking at them like, oh, esta vieja, so. And there's so many stories about elderly people who are being abused in their homes because the kids don't have any patience. The kids and the grandkids don't have any patience. And sometimes that's one of the reasons why in some cultures they just send them to this place where there are a whole bunch of other old people and they can play bingo and watch movies and dance and stuff like that. So anyway, in this story, the main protagonist's mother, she dies and he receives a telegram that says that his mother died. And he doesn't even know exactly what day his mother died. And then it tells us how he goes all the way, travels for 2 hours to this place where he had left her. And he gets to see the body, which is to sit there the whole night and look at the body. And then he gets to meet her friends. Now we're gonna read parts of it because I need to check your pronunciation as always. But I want you to focus on the way in which he reacts to this entire news about his mom dying and the way he reacts to being at the home where she lived and being with her friends and staring at the body. And there's some type of disconnection going on there, and we're going to analyze that in a few. Okay, so we are going to read this in order according to what shows up on my screen. I can't see all of you. So on my screen, I'm gonna look at, these are the list of how we're gonna read. Who's blank on my screen? Who's this blank person? Okay, so first there's Mary Ann. Oh, then there's Eduardo Soto. That's the order that we're gonna read it in. Mary Ann, Eduardo Soto, Sarah, sorry, your name just went away. Sarah, Mandisa, and if Moises finishes killing all the roaches, then he reads next. Okay, so
Profa, se escondió. Tengo miedo.
Okay. ¿Tienes miedo of what?
La cucaracha vuela, profa.
So why are you speaking to me in Spanish? Cucaracha went with your English?
The cockroach flies. I cannot kill it.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Moises. That sounds like fun. Okay, so we're gonna read one paragraph each. Make sure you read loud and clear so I can hear what you're saying. Remember, the paragraph is from the beginning until where the line ends before the next well, this is like just a long paragraph. I'm just gonna tell you when to stop reading. Okay, so we start with Mary Ann. Go.
My man died today.
Okay, wait, let me.
Or yesterday, maybe.
Wait. That's better. Go.
My man died today. Or yesterday, maybe. I don't know. I got a telegram from the home. Mother deceased. Funeral tomorrow. Faithfully yours. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe it was yesterday.
Okay, so imagine that you're an adult and you're at your job and you receive a telegram that says mother deceased. What would your reaction be? Who wants to tell me? Anybody?
I will be very sad.
Okay, very
my mom
sad.
died.
What else? Because from that first paragraph, it seems like he's just like, mom, my mom died today or yesterday maybe. I don't know. He doesn't feel to be really into the amount of emotional distress that he should be in by just receiving the news that his mother died, right? He seems to be like,
Maybe he's in shock.
okay, okay, where did Soto go? Eduardo Soto. Okay, he's not here, so let's go with you, Sarah.
I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay, there you go. Start reading.
The old people's home is at Marengo, about 80 kilometers from Algiers. I'll take the 2 o'clock bus and get there in the afternoon. That way I can be there for the vigil and come back tomorrow night. I asked my boss for the 2 days off, and there was no way he was going to refuse me with an excuse like that. But he wasn't too happy about it. I even said, it's not my fault. He didn't say anything. Then I thought I shouldn't have said that. After all, I didn't have anything to apologize for. He's the one who should have offered his condolences.
Condolences. Okay, so let's go, Sarah.
But he probably will day after tomorrow, when he sees I'm in mourning. For now, it's almost as if Maman weren't dead. After the funeral, though, the case will be closed and everything will have a more official feel to it.
So is it possible that he just hasn't really internalized the fact that his mother is dead? Or is he just a very cold person? What do you think?
I think he is like in shock, like he hasn't like realized, you know, that process where somebody died and you have to think about it days and days, and you finally get to the point like, oh, well, he's dead. I don't think he's that cold.
So do you think that maybe after he gets there and he sees her, that it's gonna change?
Probably.
Okay. Next person. Who's the next person there? Rebecca, is that you? Go ahead. I caught. Oh, it was Lisa was supposed to continue. Go, Lisa. I caught.
I caught the 2 o'clock bus. It was very hot. I ate at this restaurant at Celeste's. As usual, everybody felt very sorry for me, and Celeste said, "You only have one mother." Yeah, continue, yeah. When I left, they walked to the door. I was a little distracted because I still had to go up to Emmanuel's place to borrow a black tie and armband. He lost his uncle a few months ago.
Back. Okay, so an armband is literally just a black thing that they put here on your arm, and it shows that you are in mourning. Okay, next person, that is Rebecca, I think. Go, Rebecca.
Okay. I ran so as not to miss the bus. It was probably because of all the rushing around. And on the top of the bumpy
Bumpy.
bumpy ride, the smell of gasoline and the glare of the sky and the road that I dozed off. That I dozed off. I slammed a mouse the whole way, and when I woke up, I was slammed against the slammed. I was slammed against the soldier, who smiled at me and as if I'd been traveling long. I said yes, just so I wouldn't have to say anything else.
Okay, now I can see who else is there on the screen. So any one of you that's there, read the next, start reading. Hello? Anybody home?
I will read.
Okay, go ahead, Genesis.
The home is 2 kilometers from the village. I walked them. I wanted to see Mama right away, but the caretaker told me I had to see the director first. He was busy, so I waited a while. The caretaker talked the whole time, and then I saw the director. I was shown into his office. He was a little old man with the ribbon of the Legion of Honor in his lapel. He looked at me with his clear eyes. Then he shook my hand and held it so long I didn't know how to get it loose. He thumbed through a file and said, Madame Mirso, Madame Mirso came to us 3 years ago. You were her sole support. I thought he was criticizing me for something, and I started to explain, but he cut me off.
Okay. Next person, I know
you don't have to justify yourself, my dear.
Who's reading?
Finish?
Yes. There's Nassim, there's Adrian, there's Amir. There's the boy who's fighting with the cockroach. One of you, read. Hello. Geddes, Layali. Somebody?
You don't have to justify yourself, my dear boy. I've read your mother's file. You weren't able to provide for her properly. She needed someone to look after her. You earn only a modest salary, and the truth of the matter is she was happier here, I say. Yes, sure, he added. You see, she has friends here, people her own age. She was able to share things from the old days with them. You're young, and it must have been hard for her with you.
Okay, so according to what the director of the home is saying, it's okay that the woman, his mother, was at this place because there were other people her age and she had fun and it was much better. Okay, so what's your opinion, people? Is it possible that sometimes in some situations, some people are happier at a home than staying in their house with their family?
Yes.
Anybody else? Those of you I can't see, what's your opinion? Is it possible for an old person to be happier at an old home than in their house with their family?
If he lives alone in a house, maybe it's better if he goes to a, what's the name of that place?
You can call you can call it a home. It's called a home.
A nursing home.
Yes.
Like if you live in a house alone, like in the middle of nowhere, or like in a city that you don't like, maybe a nursing home is the best. Because only people your age.
I don't know, teacher, because you're like living in a place that you were living all the time, all your life. I think that is something like it's difficult to just leave that house that was the house that you live with your family when they was kids, and the house the same house have like many memories.
Yeah. Okay, so you, Adrian, go. It was true.
It was true when it was true. When she was at home with me, Mama used to spend her time following me with her eyes, not saying a thing. For the first few days she was at home and she cried a lot. But it was because she wasn't used to it. A few months later, and she would have cried if she'd been taken out. She was used to it. That's probably why I didn't go there much this past year. And also because it took up my Sundays. Not to mention the trouble of getting into the bus, buying tickets, and spending 2 hours traveling.
Okay, so this paragraph gives us a little clearer idea of what his relationship was with his mom. What's the impression that you're getting about his relationship with his mother? Look at how he describes when she was living at his house with him. Does it sound like he was really happy that she was there with him? Hello? Was she happy living with her son? No, it says that she used to follow him around with her eyes and she used to cry a lot. Okay, because even though she was living in a house with her son, and I'm getting the impression that maybe she lived somewhere else, but then she got too old and she went to live with her son, they didn't really have much of a connection. And then he sent her to the home and he didn't go to visit, because it says here, that's partly why I didn't go there much this past year. So he didn't go to visit her. So what impression are we getting about this man's relationship with his mom? And where's Nassim? I can't see you. You're going to read next. Nassim. Oh
Okay,
my.
from here.
Hello. What is the impression that you are getting about his relationship with his mother?
Well, his initial cold reaction must be that reaction actually makes sense for that particular relationship with his mother. And I always get the sense he didn't like that much that she went to live with him. So those kinds of cold reaction are much of a difference that's gained for unpleasant, and a kind of unpleasant into the fact that she was living there with him. So by this point, I think this really distant with her. I mean, if he didn't really care about she like standing around, but he knew that she wasn't happy there either. I get the sense that they don't really interact that much as when he grew up enough to go out of their house, probably,
The
which
part,
means that their relationships. Huh?
the part that I find most worrying is the fact that he did not go to visit her either. He didn't visit. Okay, so let's say he was too busy and she was there at home all by herself, and it was a really better idea to send her to this home where there would be other people her age. But then to not go and visit, that's also an indication that there's something wrong. Go ahead and start reading, Nassim. The director.
The director spoke to me again, but I wasn't really listening anymore. Then he said, I suppose you'd like to see your mother. I got up without saying anything, and he led the way to the door. On the way downstairs, he explained, we've moved her to our little mortuary, so as not to upset the others. Whenever one of the residents dies, the others are a bit on the edge for the next 2 or 3 days, and that makes it difficult to care of them.
Okay, good. People, why do you think we're talking about a nursing home, an old people's home? When one of them dies, all the others are very affected. Why do you think this happens? Who else is not on my screen that I know should be here?
Because they are in the same place, they know each other, they are like conviving, I don't know who say, conviving.
Yeah, that's part of it, but also
They are afraid of death.
exactly what happens if everybody your age starts to die? You start questioning like, wow, am I gonna be next? Is it gonna happen to me next? Okay, so every time one of the old people dies, it makes them come face to face with their reality, and the reality is that they're old and they're gonna die. That's just the way life goes. Okay, and now we cross the courtyard. Amir.
We crossed a courtyard where there were lots of I really can't see what's that space because I have like a point in my screen that
Yeah, okay, it says old.
old people chatting in little groups. As we went by, the talking would stop, and then the conversation would start up again behind us. The sound was like the muffled jabber of parent kids. The director stopped at the door of a small building. I will leave you now, Monsieur Monsieur.
Monsieur Monsieur.
Mm,
Monsieur.
yes, that. If you need me for anything, I will be in my office. As is, as is usually the case, the funeral is set for the 10 o'clock. Again, teacher, I can see.
In the morning.
In the morning. This way you will be able to keep vigil over the departed. One last thing. It seems your mother often expressed to her friends her desire for a religious burial. If taken, I've taken the liberty of making the necessary arrangement. But I want to let you know I thank him. While not an atheist, Mama had never in her life given a thought to religion.
Okay, good. So he is finally going to get to see his mother, his dead mother, What do you think his reaction is going to be like? Do you think he's going to finally express some feelings? Is he going to be indifferent? What do you think? Don't be reading to find the answer. What do you think? Okay. Yes. Okay, so Gedis, Dayan Otero.
I went in. It was a very bright whitewashed room with a skylight for a roof. The furniture consists of some chairs and some cross-shaped sawhorse.
Listen, the furniture
consisted. Two of them in the middle of the room were supporting a closed casket. All you could see were some shiny screws, not screwed down all the way, standing out against the walnut-stained planks. Near the casket was an Arab nurse in a white smock, with a brightly colored scarf on her head.
Okay, did everybody read, or are there other people here that I can't see?
I didn't read.
Who is I? Natalie. Go ahead, Natalie.
Just then the caretaker came in behind me. He must have been running. He stuttered a little. We put the cover on, but I'm supposed to unscrew the casket so you can see her. He was moving toward the casket when I stopped him. He said, "You don't want to?" I answered, "No." He was quiet, and I was embarrassed because I felt I shouldn't have said that. He looked at me and then asked, "Why not?" But without criticizing, as if he just wanted to know. I said, "I don't know." He started to twirling his mustache, and then without looking at me again, he said, "I understand." He was nice pale blue eyes and a reddish complexion.
Yeah, stop there. Okay. Why does he not want to see his mother? Come on, tell me what you think. He finally gets there. She's in the casket. It's covered, and he doesn't want them to remove the cover. Why?
He's not ready for her, maybe.
Okay, maybe he's not ready. Good. What other answer? What other reason could there be?
Maybe he's not willing to accept that his mother has just gone and he don't know how to feel about what is happening. So
Okay.
he just like, okay, whatever. I don't know what to do.
It's also possible that he hadn't seen her in a long time and he didn't want to see her like probably deformed or anything like that. Because remember that we just saw that he didn't visit her very often. And a lot of times when people die, they look like really deformed. So maybe he didn't want to have that impression of, ooh, who's this person? That's not really what my mom is supposed to look like. Okay, so everybody read? Everybody?
No,
Yes?
I didn't read.
Aranza, go. He offered
me a chair and then sat down right behind me. The nurse stood up and went toward the room. At that point, the caretaker said to me, "She's got an abscess." I didn't understand, so I looked over at the nurse and saw that she had a bandage wrapped around her head, just below the eyes, where her nose should have been. The bandage was flat. All you could see of her face was the whiteness of the bandage.
Okay. Now, yes, everybody, let's go back to Marianne.
When she had gone, the caretaker said, "I'll leave you alone." I don't know what kind of gesture I made, but he stayed where he was, behind me. Having this presence breathing down my neck was starting to annoy me. The room was filled with beautiful late afternoon sunlight. Two hornets were buzzing against the glass roof. I could feel myself getting sleepy. Without turning around, I said to the caretaker, "Have you been here long?" Right away he answered, "5 years," as if he'd been waiting all along for me to ask.
Okay. Who was the second person that read the first time? Because I don't remember. Sarah? No.
After that,
Okay. Soto,
he
go.
did a lot of talking. He would have been very surprised if anyone had told him he would end up caretaker at the Marengo home. He was 64 and came from Paris. At that point, I interrupted him. Oh, you're not from around here. Then I remembered that before he left,
We can't hear you, Soto. We lost Soto. And he's gone. Okay, Sarah.
he had lived in Paris and that,
We had lost you, Soto. Go, continue.
oh, I lost.
Go
That
ahead.
was what he told me. He had lived in Paris and that he had found it hard to forget it. In Paris, they kept vigil over the body for 3, sometimes 4 days.
Yeah, okay, good, good. So that's the process I was talking to you about, how people sometimes sit there and just look at the body for days, okay? Because some of them think that this is how you help the dead person transition into whatever comes next. Okay, let us skip a little bit because I want us to look at the part where they actually start. There we go. When the friends start coming into the room. So what happens next is that they sit there and they start looking at just staring at the body, and they fall asleep and they drink coffee and they just stare at the body, which is a cultural practice, which doesn't necessarily make sense if you're not from that culture, but it does to them. Okay, the next person who's gonna read is, I think Sarah. It was a rustling sound.
It was a rustling sound that woke me up. Because I had my eyes closed, the whiteness of the room seemed even brighter than before. There wasn't a shadow anywhere in front of me, and every object, every angle and curve stood out so sharply it made my eyes hurt. That's when Mama's friend came in. There were about 10 in all, and they floated into the blinding light without a sound. They sat down without a single chair creaking. I saw them more clearly than I had ever seen anyone. And not one detail of their faces or their clothes escaped me. But I couldn't hear them, and it was hard for me to believe they really existed. Almost all the women were wearing aprons and the strings, which were tied around their waist, made their bulging stomachs how?
Bulging.
Bulging stomachs stick out even more. Continue?
Just that one more line.
I'd never noticed what huge stomachs old women can have.
Okay, good. Pause. Why is he thinking of these old people like they're some type of weird aliens that he's not accustomed to seeing? Because he's looking at them like, oh, they're floating. Oh, they sit there, they don't make a sound. Oh, their bellies are big. Why all the women have big bellies? Why is he so separated from old people like he's never seen them? What do you think is going on? We've all seen old people, right? We're all gonna be old. Why that separation for him?
Maybe he hasn't seen an old person in a long time?
That could be part of it. What else? Go deeper though. What would be a deeper explanation for this?
Yes. Yeah, what Nassim said here in the room, that maybe he's disgust of them, and that's why he let her mom on this home.
Okay. The thing is this. In society, after you reach a certain age, you become invisible. Nobody sees you. Okay? If there are two persons walking down the street, and one of them is a young person with headphones and dancing, and the other one is some old guy with a stick walking, everybody's gonna pay attention to the young dude with the headphones, and the older guy is simply invisible. And so this speaks to us about the way society perceives old people. After a certain age, you're just not there anymore. Nobody sees you. Nobody pays attention to you. Nobody really knows who you are. So this is what's happening here. It's not that he has never seen old people, it's that he's never paid attention to old people, because in his little bubble world, old people are invisible. And it happens in every culture, because if there's one thing that most people are afraid of, it's getting old. In fact, I had a friend who she was so scared of getting old that she actually died young. Why are people so afraid of getting old? What are some of the characteristics that society has used to describe old people? Tell me.
Yeah, they're strange of becoming obsolete.
Exactly. Old people are afraid of becoming obsolete. So they're obsolete. What else? How else can you describe old people?
Rude.
Rude? Okay. What about sick? Old people are supposed to be always sick, right? And it's expensive to be sick. And so nobody wants to get old, because you don't want to be, walking around with 5 bottles of pills and always have to go to the doctor and, my pressure, my heart, my lungs, that's what people see as being old. What else? So you're obsolete and you're always sick. What else?
You won't be able to do anything that you want to do, because
you don't have the energy.
No energy.
One more thing, huge one. Whenever we think, and he mentions it here kind of like hidden, he says, I've never noticed what huge stomachs old women can have. What is it that old people, how do we describe old people? And what's another fear that people have of losing? Losing what? It starts with a B.
Beauty.
Exactly. Moises, I'm so happy you solved your cockroach problems. It starts with the letter B, and it's, yes, as Soto said, beauty. So when you think of old people, society usually paints them as obsolete. O sea, ¿qué ideas? ¿Qué te pasa? Obsolete. They're always sick. They're not strong, and they're not pretty. So nobody wants to get old. But of course, none of these things are true. That's not true. As we have discussed before, beauty has nothing to do with what's going on the outside. Okay, so since Moises solved his cockroach problems, please read almost all the men, starting from there, almost all the men.
Almost all the men were skinny and carried canes. What struck me the most about their faces was that I couldn't see their eyes, just a faint glimmer in the nest of wrinkles. When they sat down, most of them looked at me and nodded awkwardly, their lips sunk in their toothless mouths, so that I couldn't tell if they were greeting me or if it was just a nervous tick. I think they were greeting me. It was then that I realized they were all sitting across from me, nodding their heads, grouped around the caretaker.
Good.
For a second, I had the ridiculous feeling that they were there to judge me.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to end that here. We're not going to continue reading, but what happens next is just logical. Every time you go to a funeral, there are going to be people doing what?
Crying.
Of course, praying. Good. So we're going to end the class here. And I do encourage you to look for the free PDF. The link was already given to you. If not, just type in The Stranger free PDF and finish reading this chapter, because remember, this book is going to give us a clear idea of what happens when a person simply is not paying attention to life, is not paying attention to the little decisions. When you don't pay attention to the little decision that you make every day, You just end up getting carried away, which is exactly what happens to the main protagonist in the story. So please go ahead and read that. Okay? Yeah, that's it. Any questions? Do you have any questions about anything?
Yes.
Yes.
Like this week assignment, do we have a time limit audio, or it's just like whatever time we want?
Whatever time, but don't make it more than 10 minutes. Okay? Yeah, just watch the very, very long, very boring movie and give me that analysis. The book, the movie, and this year. The differences and the similarities. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, people, so your homework. Finish reading chapter 1. Start chapter 2 if you have the time. There are only like 3 more pages left of chapter 1. Oh, yeah, 3 more pages. Start chapter 2 if you have the time. This book goes deep in a, the other one also went deep, but this one goes deep in a different direction than 1984. This applies more to things that you can change, whereas 1984 was like, okay, politics, the government, them. This is more about you and the way in which you make decisions for your own life. Okay, so this was interesting. See you next time. Bye-bye.